If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart and Tommy Beer. Let's get to it, New York.
In that one. So we come into Monday night as when we're recording this podcast Monday afternoon here. Knicks back in action against the Minnesota Timberwolves. The T-Wolves are 35-37 and fighting for not just their playoff lives. They're not fighting for their play-in lives. So things not looking good for Minnesota right now. They currently sit in 9th in the Western Conference. They're expected to be without All-Star Anthony Edwards. He hurt his ankle last week. He's now out of the walking boot, which was a pretty big development because they listed him as out indefinitely over the weekend, and he's already out of the walking boot. Now, I saw reporting saying that they would expect him to still not play Monday night, but we'll see if that actually ends up happening. But Ant has been in the walking boot. He came out of the walking boot this weekend, but he has been injured. They played without him on Saturday. They lost to Toronto by 15. They've now lost 5 of their last 6 games the last time these two teams played. Knicks won 120-107 on the road. Keys to Knicks win here, Tommy. I mean, the T-Wolves, you think without Anthony Edwards and some of the trades that they have made, they brought in Conley, they got rid of D'Angelo Russell. They're not necessarily going to be as high-powered offensively as they've maybe, expected to be. Of course, Cat has been out of the lineup as well. So Knicks look good coming into this game, but what's it going to take to get a W?
Yeah, the first and foremost is really importantly, Jalen Brunson has been removed from the injury report. He's not even questionable or probable. He's completely removed. So that's really good news, and that's a surest sign yet that he didn't suffer any setbacks Saturday, which is really, really important. Obviously, not only short term, but immensely important long term. So very good news on that front. As you know, Timberwolves are listing Anthony Edwards as questionable. So the fact that he's not doubtful is a little surprising. As you know, when he went down Friday, it looked like a very serious injury.
It looked serious, yeah.
Very serious. Obviously didn't play Saturday. He was on the walking boot, but now he's out of the walking boot. I'd be very surprised if he did play, but he's still listed as questionable, as is Rudy Gobert, who's also listed as questionable. However, they've attached that questionable tag to Rudy for like 3 straight weeks now. He hasn't missed a game in a month, so I fully expect him to play. Naz Reid is also questionable, but it sounds like he's trending towards playing as well. So.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how that plays. Obviously, Knicks need to do what they do. They're 7-point favorites. This is another game they should win. Keeping Gobert off the glass is going to be important. So Mitch and Ihart will have their hands full. But again, an older point guard like Conley is going to have a really tough time guarding Brunson, as do most players this day and age. RJ Barrett's trending in the right direction in terms of taking it downhill, as Tibbs talked about after the win on Saturday, basically saying when he doesn't mess around and shoot those 3-pointers, he's a really talented player. Shot 80% inside the arc on Saturday, and I think he's shooting 60% on 2-pointers over the last few weeks or so, right around that number. So that's a good sign. Hopefully he kind of puts himself in positions to succeed.
Tibbs there saying exactly what we said last week after the Laker game, essentially, was that, like when he's not taking threes, he's a extremely efficient offensive player for the most part.
Totally. If you're looking for, you want to get greedy a little bit, and not in addition to a Knicks win, it'd be nice to see Grimes start to develop a nice little rhythm offensively, because he has struggled a little bit. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, you mentioned Gobert, his ability to defend the rim, his ability to be a dominant force on the offensive glass. Should be another good matchup for Mitchell Robinson. I would think Gobert would be the kind of guy Mitchell Robinson would pattern his game after. In this loss they had against Toronto, Gobert had 5 offensive rebounds, 12 total. So that should be a good matchup. They're gonna have to keep him off the glass, and that's gonna honestly be probably the T-Wolves' best chance to win this game. They're gonna have to find a way to get some offensive rebounds, because I don't think they have the firepower. If you don't got Cat, if Andy Edwards is not playing, Naz Reid, who's been coming off the bench, I mean, he's been a stud, and it's been great to see kid out of LSU. I think he was a little underrated coming out of his draft. He's really developed into a really good player. He's kind of been their ace, really. And we got to see if he plays. Of course, I know you said he was questionable, but they don't really got enough offense. So it's going to come down to whether or not they can kind of muck up the game, get some offensive rebounds. So I think if you're the Knicks, you just got to play a sound game. You can't get a lot of turnovers. You got to make sure you're on your P's and Q's when it comes to defending the glass, which Knicks are really good at. And if they go out and they do their thing, they should win this game. I am interested in some of these matchups. I think the matchups in the front court with depending on who guards Randall, the kid McDaniels for the T-Wolves, another young, athletic, good defender, can do a lot of things. He may be up against Randall or RJ. Kyle Anderson's always been a good player. He's a guy from Jersey, so he's playing back at home. So interesting matchups into this game. But again, like the Knicks are in pretty good shape, I feel like, in this one with the T-Wolves slumping right now.
Yeah, this is a game they should win.
Yeah.
This would be a bad loss. You're playing a team without its best player, without its all-star, dinged up with some other injuries. Obviously, without their two best players, without Cat.
Yeah, Cat not playing either.
So yeah, this is a game you want to, and this is when the Knicks consider themselves a very good team, great team, you want to get out in front, impose your dominance and let them know. But make no mistake, this is down the stretch, basically every game, not only the Timberwolves play, but the Lakers and the Jazz and the Thunder and the Warriors. It's like 11 playoff games, over the next 15, 16 nights for all these teams. As the Timberwolves wake up this morning, you talked about it, not just fighting for the playoff life, they're playing life. They're basically tied with the Lakers and the Jazz at 13 games back. With that 9, 10, 11 seed. One of those teams is probably not going to make it. And then you got the Pelicans 13.5 games back. So assuming the Thunder take care of business, the Warriors, do what they need to do. They got a winnable game against the Rockets tonight. Basically every game's a playoff game for the Wolves. So you're going to get there. They're not going to rest any guys. I'm not looking ahead towards the postseason, anything along those lines. They're going to do what they can. The Knicks, this starts a little bit of a streak for New York. The bunch of winnable games. I think they have the 27th ranked schedule in terms of difficulty, or another way to put it is the 4th easiest schedule the rest of the way. So that's something to keep an eye on. One other thing I wanted to mention on the pod today was Tuesday. The Nets host the Cavs. Those two teams actually play twice this week, Tuesday and Thursday. So those big games are basically like win-win games for the Knicks. Either the Nets lose and drop further back behind the Knicks, or the Nets beat the Cavs, and then the Knicks make a little run towards Cleveland at the 4 seed. So the Knicks have a chance to not only gain on this game, put some more wins in the win column. Now they have 42 to 42 and 30, which means they're guaranteed to finish above 500. And Knicks fans out there know that's not something to take for granted.
No, not at all.
If they can win 8 of their final 10, they have a chance at a 50-win season, which would obviously be nice. But again, just try to put the wins together. They should probably, get some benefit from the schedule makers this week with the Nets and Cavs playing. So it's something to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, and it's a credit to the Knicks because they came into that stretch when Mitchell Robinson got hurt, having like one of the toughest schedules in the NBA. Yes. And we did this show and we said, look out below. Like, this might get a little ugly here, like in this month or so that Mitchell's going to be out. And they survived that and played really well. And now they're kind of enjoying the fruits of their labor because now they come into the easier part of the schedule towards the end of the season. And now they're fully healthy. So this is a great opportunity for the Knicks. It includes this game Monday night. And to me, this is also when we talk about like the T-Wolves and their conundrum with the Lakers and Jazz and Thunder and Pelicans. Like, this is essentially what the play-in tournament was designed to do. We come into this week, only 4 teams are eliminated from playoff contention. The Portland Trailblazers are trying like hell to get themselves out of playoff contention. They've lost 6 straight, and they're pulling guys out of the lineup left and right to get back into the lottery sweepstakes. But like, they're still technically in it. The Orlando Magic have 29 wins, and they're still technically in it. They're 5 games out of the last spot in the play-in. So like, that is, I think, definitely what's best for the NBA, clearly, because now we're seeing a lot of teams, a lot of fan bases still engaged. Because teams that normally would have wrote off, you can't at this point. There are too many teams that are live, and especially in that Western Conference. I mean, again, the difference between the Mavericks at 6th and the Pelicans at 12 is 2 games. So like this every team, almost every team in the West is live at this point. So this is going to be a real race to the finish, the play-in tournament. I know there were some that were detractors for it, but I think that this season has been definitely the season to say, hey, this is why we have this.
100%. And it's not only the guys in the six, in the 8, 9, 10 that are, and 11, 12 that are fighting to get in the play. And then you have the teams 5 and 6 that are fighting like heck to avoid slipping into the
Yeah.
7, 8 spot. So just motivation every which way, in years past, if you're a team like the Knicks, yes, you obviously want to finish 5 rather than 6, or, if you're a team like the Nets, you obviously want to finish 6 rather than 7. But now the motivation is immense for teams like the Heat and Nets slugging it out, and obviously out west to avoid the play-in tournament as well. Years past, you'd have teams like the Sixers and Celtics fighting to get that 2-3 seed. And that's essentially the main motivation. Then you teams around that 8-9 mark. But yeah, credit to the NBA, Adam Silver, those guys. I wasn't sure about it when they first introduced it, but I think the lottery flattening has been a big success. In conjunction with the play-in tournament has been a huge success. A lot more exciting basketball at the end of the season.
And one last note on this this T-Wolves matchup. I know I had in the notes about Tibbs and his evolution from there, but essentially you pointed it out very well with the Malone comments, which were very apropos. But I did actually want to bring something else up with the T-Wolves and talking about them and this trade that they made for Rudy Gobert. I mean, at this point, this has got to go down as one of the worst trades in recent memory, right? I mean, I know, I guess he signed long term, so they have some more years to maybe figure this out. But you almost get the feeling that they're not even going to wait that long. Like this offseason, there'll probably be some major moves to see if they can maybe move Cat or move maybe Gobert. I don't know, but it doesn't feel like this experiment had any chance to work from the beginning, and it has failed miserably. And they gave a lot of draft capital to make this happen.
That's the thing. I mean, they didn't. It was one of those things where, initially, I thought it was maybe the worst trade I'd seen in 5-10 years, and I wasn't. I mean, there was the common consensus was, what on earth are the Timberwolves doing? It just didn't make sense on so many different levels. You're pairing two centers in a league that prioritizes 3-point play and positionless basketball. Now you got two centers that are taking up spots on the block. And if Rudy Gobert was a free agent and they were going to sign him to a $120 million 4-year contract, I would have thought that was a bad contract to sign him to. But in order to pay Rudy Gobert that contract, given their current roster construction with Karl-Anthony Towns, obviously, for the opportunity to pay Rudy Gobert that money, they gave up 5 first-round draft picks, 4 of them unprotected, and Walker Kessler, who was the 25th overall pick in last year's draft, who's averaging his per 36 minutes are very similar to Rudy Gobert's per 36 minutes. I mean, seriously, straight up, if you gave GMs the choice to have Kessler at 3, I don't know what he's making, 2.5 million and 3.5 million next year, or Rudy Gobert at 30 million, a lot of GMs are going to take the younger player who's 9 years younger and puts up similar defensive stats. Not as good a defensive player, but younger, can it's relatively similar. Offensively they don't contribute much. It is just a nightmare in every way, shape, or form. The way the season has turned out has made it look even worse. And they're going to have to look to break it up. Maybe they get a couple first-round picks for Rudy. They flip him this summer. That's probably the best case scenario. I think moving Cat, selling low on him would be a mistake. Obviously, the Knicks will be in the mix if he demands a trade or if they put him on the block. It's something we can discuss at another date and time. But it's rare where basically everyone covering the league says, "Oh my God, this is a terrible trade," and not to mention the implications it had, kind of the ripple effects. It clearly influenced the Donovan Mitchell sweepstakes. If that Rudy Gobert trade doesn't happen, the Knicks, I don't want to say probably get Donovan Mitchell, but I think it's far more likely. They were on the 1-yard line anyway. But the sense was that Ainge felt emboldened by the incredible haul he got from the Gobert deal. It just kind of reset the market. In a way, this summer we're kind of seeing Lamar Jackson kind of still dangling out there. And he's demanding that he basically his insisting that he gets paid similar to Deshaun Watson. What it was, $230 million guaranteed, something ridiculous that kind of reset the market. And it's just and all the other in front of his head saying, no, that's an outlier. We can't pay you based upon the idiotic the Browns' idiotic decision. So sometimes when there's kind of that wild, that wild outlier trade or free agent signing, kind of throws a monkey wrench into all the works. And I think that's what happened in the summer.
And I think what was crazy about the trade was these are two guys, not one, but two guys that we actually watched in the postseason and said, oh, it's going to be tough to play those guys down the stretch of certain games. And their concept was to play them together. Like, that was crazy. Like, we've seen Gobert for years have these games where they can't put him on the floor, or if they play him on the floor, like the Clippers famously spread out the Jazz and just shot them out of the playoffs. And then we saw last year against the Memphis Grizzlies with Cat and his struggles in the postseason, and his struggles to guard and saying, oh man, like, he's your best player, that's going to be tough. And somehow the T-Wolves thought, hey, we put these guys together, it will work out. I mean, it didn't make sense at the time, and it looks terrible now.
The crazy thing was that the argument was, listen, it'll be awesome in the regular season. Those two guys will be dominant in the regular season where you can't pregame and plan, and so they'll win 50 games, and then we'll figure it out in the postseason. Now, oh my God, just a nightmare.
Yeah, so T-Wolves, good for them that they have Anthony Edwards, a young star, a guy who looks like he's definitely going to be one of the better players in this league. That kind of softens the blow a little bit, but losing all those unprotecteds, man, tough break for the T-Wolves. Anyway, Knicks T-Wolves Monday night at Madison Square Garden. So